All right, folks, this is the first video for R6, first of two videos. And so this is a little bit of a continuation from R3. So in R3, we went through these first three properties of exponents, so you should be familiar with those. And then these next two, the negative and the quotient rule, are what we're going to talk about now. Now, you should have seen these before, so this should not be completely new. But the negative exponent, it just tells you that if you have a negative exponent, you're going to take the reciprocal of the base. And the quotient property says if you are dividing like bases with different exponents, then you can just subtract the exponents. And so we're going to use those properties on problems 1 through 4, where we're going to simplify. And so when we're simplifying these problems, there are a couple things that we're looking for. First of all, you should have no negative exponents in your answer. You also should have either multiplied or divided or reduced everything you can. And there should be only one instance of each variable. So for example, for number 3 and number 4, your answer is only going to have one x in there. So we know we need to combine those x's, and same thing for number 4, okay? So if you think you kind of remember how to do these problems and you feel of interest, I would suggest pausing the video and trying them out as best you can. But if not, then just sit back and take notes from me as I work through each of these 4 problems. All right, so for number 1, the one thing that we need to do to simplify this is just to get rid of the -4, which only applies to the y. So this is going to simplify to x over y to the power of 4. And so we're using the reciprocal property to move the y to the denominator. Once we do that, then the 4 becomes positive. The x already has a positive exponent, so we're not moving the x at all. And that's our answer for number 1. All right, number 2 is more of a two-step problem. First thing we're going to do is use the negative property to rewrite this as 1 over 5x quantity squared. And so that takes care of the negative exponent, but now we can actually go ahead and take 5 squared and x squared. So the final answer for number 2 is going to be 1 over 25 x squared. Okay. All right, for number 3 and 4, well, for number 3, we're multiplying here. So we'll start by taking 5 times 7, which is 35. And then we're going to add the exponents on the x, which gives us x to the power of +1 and y to the power of -4. So that takes care of the multiplication piece. And then our next step is we want to get rid of the negative exponent on the y. So our final answer will be 35x over y to the power of 4. And that's our answer for number 3. So number 4 is a division problem, of course. So first of all, when we look at the coefficients, we can't divide 24 and 18 evenly, but we can reduce those. So I can divide each of those numbers by 6. So that's going to reduce to 4 over 3. And then I'm going to subtract the exponents. And so for the x and for the y. And so there's a couple different ways you can go about this. First of all, you could always just subtract the numerator from the denominator and put the answer in the numerator. Or you could just, or sometimes you can kind of figure out which, like where the final answer is going to go based on whichever one has the highest exponent. So I think what I'm going to do on this one is I'm just going to subtract the exponents as they are. So I'm always going to take the numerator exponent minus the denominator exponent and then put that answer in the numerator when I do that. So for the x's, on this top x, the exponent is 1. So we're taking 1 minus -4, which is a +5. So we have x to the 5th. And then for the y, same thing. In this case, we're taking -3 minus a -5, which is a +2. So it becomes y squared. So the answer is 4x to the 5th y squared over 3. Okay. All right, let's go through a couple of other problems that are a little more difficult, perhaps. Okay, actually, before I write down number 6, why don't you go ahead and try number 5? That's quite a bit like number 4. So go ahead and give that one a try and see how you do. Okay, so when I work this out, 81 over 63, we can divide both of those numbers by 9. So that's going to give me 9 over 7. And then for the x's, -5 minus 2 is -7. And then for the y's, 10 minus a -5 is a positive 15. And then at this point, we cannot leave, this is not our final answer because the x still has a negative exponent. So when we take care of that, we'll have 9y to the 15th over 7x to the power of 7. Okay, so the only thing we had to do on that last step is just move the x to the denominator since it had a negative exponent. Okay. All right, let's take a look at number 6 here. Okay. So for number 6, this is going to be a multi-step problem. What I would suggest doing first, well, there's a couple different things you could do. First of all, you could take each of the parentheses and you could, since each parentheses has a negative exponent, you can move the whole group of the parentheses either to the denominator or this denominator to the numerator to get rid of the negative exponents. Or you could rewrite everything with, or you could use a power property to rewrite everything, for example, in this first parentheses to the power of -2 and so forth, okay? And I think that's what I'm gonna do first. So I'm gonna start by just rewriting that first parentheses as 4 to the power of -2, x to the power of -6. That second parentheses is going to become x to the power of +3 over y to the power of -12. Okay. Now we really can't evaluate 4 to the power of -2. So I want to move the 4 to the denominator and make that 4 squared at some point. So let's go ahead and do that next. So I'm going to move the 4 down. So I have 4 squared. These x's, I can go ahead and use the product property by adding those exponents, which gives me x to the power of -3. And then the y to the power of -12, I'm going to move that to the numerator. It becomes y to the power of +12. And so the only thing left on this particular problem is I need to move the x to the -3 to the denominator. We can go ahead and now calculate 4 squared, which is 16, and then the y to the power of 12 is in the numerator. And that's it. That's our answer for that one. Okay. So let's do one more problem like that. Okay. Okay, so again, I would just go ahead and give that one number 7 a try. Pause the video, and then once you're done, go ahead and resume, and you'll see me work through it. Okay, so this first parentheses has a power to a +2. So I can actually go ahead and take 2 squared, which I know is 4, and then x to the 8th. Okay, remember, keep in mind we're using the power property when you have an exponent to another exponent. So we're going to multiply in this situation. Then 3x to the -cubed. It's going to become 3 to the power of -3, x to the power of -3. And then for the denominator, we'll have x to the power of -2 y squared. Okay. Okay, So I cannot take 4 times 3 to the power of -3. We have to evaluate that first. That's an order of operations thing. And I really cannot evaluate that 3 to the power of -3 until I move the 3 to the denominator. All right. So in my next step, I'm going to leave the 4 where it's at. And I'll move the 3 to the power of -3 down. So it becomes 3 to the power of +3. Of course, that's 27. You may know that. So you may just write 27 there if you wish. I'll combine the x's in the numerator. So that's going to give me x to the 5th. I'm just going to rewrite the negative. Well, let me go ahead and actually, let me go ahead and, well, yeah, let me go ahead and rewrite that. Sorry. Okay. And so now the only thing left is, of course, 3 cubed is 27. And now I just need to combine those x's. So I'm going to take 5 minus a -2, which is a +7. And that's it. That's our answer. Okay. So you might notice as these problems, if you're thinking through it, like you may have worked things out in a little bit of a different order, and that's perfectly fine. So, you know, the order that I work it out is not necessarily the best way, and it may not seem the most logical way to you. So once you know these properties, there's different things that you can do first. So you don't have to necessarily go in the same order, but that would be your final answer for number 7. Okay. And that's it for this video.